What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the Fish Life Podcast, the lowest budget, actually live podcast. We'll explain that and why you guys are lowballers, but this is what they wrote about us right here.
Yeah.
Yep. Nailed it.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Here in the lowest
Budget.
budget
Lowest
layer.
of budgets.
The layer.
We got one broken phone, one not yet broken phone, two chargers, and that makes us live on Facebook as well as YouTube. We got Fletcher Shryock, baby, coming in hot tonight. Fletcher Shryock's going to be live with us for Redcrest Postgame show. And then, turn that down a bit, just a little bit. Because what are we going to get into tonight, Chris?
We're going to get into the deepest, darkest depths
Folks,
of deception.
there is some ugliness. There's some straight up lying, lack of integrity. There's some dirt in the world of bass fishing, especially on the guide side. I've been in it long enough now. I've pretty much seen just about most of it that you can see, and I've watched it go down. And some really overtly obvious versions of that have been taking place lately at Lake Fork, specifically. So we're going to expose it tonight. We're gonna hurt some feelings and make some people upset tonight, I can assure you. Like, I might, if I come up dead next week, y'all are gonna know who did it by the time this podcast is over.
I feel like this is a documentary of lies, cheats,
I don't
scandals.
think they'll actually kill me, but I might get assaulted. I'm just saying, we're taking a little bit of a risk on this one. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But before all that happens, man, can't even afford a sound. I can't afford to pay attention. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm so broke I can't even pay attention.
Fade that on Whiskey Myers out, man. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We're going to have a good, listen, we are going to talk about some serious stuff that does bother me at the end of the podcast. We're going to have fun with it like we always do. But here's the deal. Before all that, we just watched the Redcrest go down. Man, what a final day derby that was. A final minute derby that was.
Final 3 minutes and 22 seconds.
That was Major League Fishing at its best, in my opinion, Chris. Like, you can argue about the best five or the how many total fish weight. You can argue about you don't like this organization or you do like that organization or whatever you want to argue about. Here's what you can't deny. When there's four guys within one fish catch,
pretty exciting.
and there's 15 minutes left, that's like nothing else in bass fishing.
Bro,
dude.
what was the first thing I said when I walked in today?
Yeah, that's a buzzer beater.
How about that buzzer beater?
Yeah, dude, that is real sports. Like, here's the thing that makes it. This is their big feather in the cap to me. Somebody who's never watched fishing in their life could sit down with 15 or 30 minutes left in that tournament and watch it
And get excited about it.
and understand it. And when Bobby Lane catches that 2-pounder, they're going, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah.
Just like when a guy hits that 3-pointer to go up by 1 point with 2 seconds left in the game, everybody knows what happened whether you know basketball or not.
That's right.
Same deal. It makes it a real sport. Mega Bass did happen on Lake Fork today. We're actually going to cover that tomorrow. I'm going to reach out to Chad Potts, try to get him on the phone tomorrow to cover Mega Bass. So we're going to try to do back-to-back live stream days. We're going to do some more of these live coverage deals of what's going on at Lake Fork. We're going to try to get, I haven't even messaged him yet. So Chad, if you're watching, I'm going to be texting you later.
Yeah.
I apologize for putting you on the spot like that. I'm going to try to get, I have no idea. He's a busy guy. After that tournament, he moves on to the next one. I'm going to try to get Chad on the phone tomorrow if I can't talk to him in person, and we're going to see if we can't talk about a 13-year-old won the Mega Bass today, dude. That's pretty darn cool in its own right. We're going to get into that tomorrow. Tonight, though, we got Fletcher Shryock going to join us live tonight, which is really cool. Fletcher's, dude, I'm going to be honest with you, like, I like Fletcher.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites on tour.
Here's the deal that I like about Fletcher. He's a lot like we are. We ain't really going to pull no punches.
No.
Like, yeah, if I think Marty Stone is lying to you guys about stuff when they're on Lake Fork, I'm going to say, Marty Stone, what the hell you doing?
Right.
If I think that some of those pros are fishing Lake Fork and missing part of the bite, I'm going to say, man, I think they're missing that. When they're on other lakes, I ain't going to say that because, I mean, Lord knows they're better than me. We all know that.
Right.
But when they're on Lake Fork, an area that I do have some expertise in, if I think they're missing something, I'm going to offer that to you as the viewers because I think that gives you guys an interesting perspective and adds to your viewing of the event. But the bottom line is we have opinions. This is an opinion show. You don't have to like the opinions. You don't have to agree with the opinions. But as long as I've got breath in me, okay, we're going to speak on what we want to speak on here. We're going to be free. We're going to get political at times if we believe in that. I'll tell you what I don't believe. I don't believe in not saying something you believe or think because you're worried about the repercussions of it.
That's right.
Like, if it's an opinion that you believe in and you want to stand behind, then you ought to put it out there and quit being a little girl and being scared of it. Like, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Dude on your left looks like he belongs to the Guggen Squad. No, he belongs to the Goober Squad. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
The Guggen Squad's not as bad as some people want to make them out to be. They're pretty good old boys. They really are. I mean, listen, I get it. They're not, hardcore tournament fishing guys like a lot of us are, but they're pretty good old boys. Mm-hmm. Do we need to do some redneck science about Lake Fork?
Yeah, let's do some redneck science.
Real quick, redneck science about Lake Fork. Man, the weekend wasn't so bad, but last week during the weekend, and really this next week, we are dealing with wind. Like, it's finally right. The dogwoods are blooming. The water temps are right. Fish are running to the bank. Like, all that good stuff is happening. We've been waiting and waiting. We've had a late spring. And then all of a sudden, this hurricane force winds are hitting us like every day. It's going to happen this week, too, for the most part. Here's my redneck side. You got to take what she gives you, folks. I would love to sit here and tell you I have the top secret way or some little trick you can do to go fishing when the wind's blowing 20 sustained and catch their butts. The reality is it makes it a little tougher. As good as fishing should be right now, when it's blowing 20 sustained, it makes it difficult. What the wind does is limit what you can do. You got to take what she can give you, and you got to fish what the weather will give you and what the lake will give you. If you're going to Lake Fork in big winds, number one, especially with the low water conditions, please be safe. Think about where you're going to be driving that boat. Think about how you're going to get to those areas you want to fish. You may not get to fish everywhere you want to. That's one of the parts of the wind limiting it. So first redneck science is don't be dumb, man. With the lake being low, stumps, sandbars everywhere that you don't know about, be cautious, be overly cautious, and stay in the areas where you're more protected from the wind. Launch where you're more protected from the wind too, because that can be a pain in the butt as well with the limited boat ramps on Lake Fork. Number two is you got to fish techniques you can fish. Everybody, this time of year, I think a really good technique is slowing down and flipping and pitching or throwing weightless plastics are phenomenal this time of year. But with all that wind, if you're going to throw weightless plastics, you got to put up, here's the deal. Just do a Carolina rig, guys. Get you a 3/4 1 ounce Carolina rig and then put a 3, 4, 5 foot leader if you want to. That essentially is weightless plastics with an anchor. It's a great way to fish a bait in a windy area and still present a weightless plastic type of presentation, okay? So if you're wanting to fish that way, which is a very good way to fish, use the Carolina rig. If you're gonna fish those points, those windy points, that's great. Make sure you can get to and from them safely. Hey, get your square bills, get your big swim baits, and get your Carolina rigs again, because those are the baits that work on those. So you gotta fish the baits. Swim baits are gonna be real good for a while on Lake Fork. Carolina rigs are always gonna be good this time of year on Lake Fork, and square bills on those points can be good right now. The sight fishing deal, you're going to have to plan that out and be very protected to do it. I'm going to try and do some of it tomorrow. We'll see how it works out. But
I'll tell you a technique that I use when it's windy like this too, and it's a little split shot rig. It's basically a mini version of the Carolina rig.
But with that kind of wind, you still got to be kind of protected to use it. You can't just go out and it's exposed to the wind areas and fish it.
Right.
Yeah. But you're right. Split shot rig's good.
I use a 1/2 ounce weight almost all the time with that deal.
Shoot, that's big for a split shot rig.
Well, and what you do is you make your leader longer or shorter.
I was just checking time.
Yeah, you good. Based on how slow you want the fall to be. So.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the moral of the story for Billy Ray's Redneck Science for the week is take what she'll give you, boys.
That's right.
Don't get greedy when it's windy. Take what she'll give you. Fish within your bounds. Be safe and go enjoy the day the best you can. It's not always going to be great when we go out there. It's not always going to be perfect. It ain't always going to be the best day. You got to take what she'll give you. She'll get right here in a minute. She'll get right here in a minute. It's coming.
Hey, at the end of the day, it's March. We know what March brings.
Can we dial up Fletcher Shryock? I'm anxious, dude. I need to call Fletcher. Let's dial that phone number right now.
Let's do it.
1-800-dial a motorcycle rider.
Is this J.G. Wentworth?
Yeah, exactly. You guys let me know on the volume if y'all can hear him. What if he doesn't?
What's up, man?
Man, I was just about to say, what if he doesn't answer on live? That'd be great. That'd be great. Dude, this is awesome, man. Yeah, I know you were, buddy. I know we were a little bit late. I apologize for that, dude. Hey, thank you so much, first of all, for doing this. I know you've had a pretty fun but hectic week at those championship level events like a Redcrest. I know how that can be.
Yeah, it's definitely been a little hectic. Definitely fun too. They did a pretty good job this week overall. Pretty impressed with what they was done, and already looking forward to next year. You know, obviously it was their first one to have an expo, and everyone was kind of questioning how it was going to go. I think it went pretty well. I think it's something they're going to build on, and it's going to be it's going to be a thing that's going to be good in the years to come. So.
Yeah, I think didn't get the chance to go up there. It's a tough time of year for me to break away from Lake Fork, as you can probably imagine. Didn't get to go up there. But from what I can tell from the outside looking in, it looks like the expo went really well. Saw a very nice post from Basscat Boats, kind of explaining what was going on. And the reality is the first Redcrest Expo going to be like the most recent Bassmaster Classic as far as number of attendees? That's not a realistic thing to expect, but the bottom line was
even realistic.
It's insane to even think that or compare that, because this is a new beginning for this deal, right? So, but you guys, the fact of the matter is you guys did have a lot of people going through there and a good solid flow throughout the week from what I've heard. And what was really cool is I watched the end of the tournament today is they had that big crowd kind of viewing it like a regular sports audience, and you could hear the crowd cheer when Bobby Lane hooked that fish. You heard him gasp when he hooked it and cheer when it weighed 2 pounds the third time he weighed it. I mean, that's an aspect of fishing we've never had before.
Yeah, definitely. I was in the arena, like you said, it is definitely not the Bassmaster Classic. You can't compare to that yet. No one has tried. I mean, maybe some people would try, but I think the people that are realistic know.
Right.
The Classic's been around for how many years, right? But when I say that it was successful, not directly comparing it, if that makes sense, but it's definitely something that's going to grow, and I feel very confident that in the future, that it's going to be, better and solid. And there's no question,
Yeah. Talk to me about, so we actually spoke to this a little bit right before we started. And I want to get into more stuff with you as we get into this conversation about you and some Lake Fork specific stuff with you, since we are so much of a Lake Fork podcast. But the reality is we just watched the Redcrest, and what a finish. I mean, the finish and the way it all shaped up, and kind of what we said to our audience right before we started this is, there's all sides of differing opinions. And I know you've been a little bit of a lightning rod when the split first happened, but there's all sorts of opinions on, we like this side or we like that side, or heck, we like both sides, but we don't want them to argue. I mean, there's all these different opinions. Forget all of that, dude. What happened?
We can talk about that some if you want.
No, I understand. We can.
I definitely was there a few years ago. That whole deal. I mean, I still feel the same way about it now as I did then. It's still, I guess, the two things that baffle me the most is how many people actually even listen to me. I think that was the first
right.
Looking back on it, right. I'm just kind of doing my thing. I don't win a lot of events, but I've had some solid. I feel like I've had a decent career, but I don't know, when you say something like that, and I feel like everyone listened, it was like, wow, there's that many people that even slightly care about what I have to say.
Right.
That kind of took me back a little bit, and I feel like the whole thing was kind of taken out of context then. Still to this day, like those guys leaving, there was a lot of guys that obviously weren't vocal about it, that didn't like it. It's I still like and respect Gerald and Brandon and all that stuff, but I feel like that thing got really blown out of proportion.
Sure.
And I was just the guy to say it, but the thing is, there was so much division. I think a lot more so then than now. I think everyone's just kind of doing their thing now. But it was that kind of like that lightning rod, I was just the guy that said the one thing that sparked off all of the anger in everyone towards each direction. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's kind of funny how that all worked out. You know what I mean? I didn't really feel like it was that big. Maybe it was. I mean, obviously it was, but looking back, I still am baffled by how that turned out.
How much reaction it got? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still crazy to me. So, did I like what they did then? No, at the time they did it. But is it a big deal now? Absolutely not. Everyone's going to go where they want to go and do what they want to do. And, but like you were saying, what was you wanting to say? Was you wanting to ask my opinion on the differing formats and things like that?
No. What I was trying to get to was, regardless of which format anybody prefers or anything else, what we saw for the last 15, 30 minutes of that event, that to me is Major League Fishing at its best, and that is something that you guys have that the other side doesn't. I mean, that buzzer beater format, anybody who's never watched a fishing tournament in their life could have walked into my living room with 15 minutes left in that tournament today and understood what was going on, and they would have gasped when Bobby Lane set the hook, and they would have cheered when he weighed the fish at 2 pounds.
There's no doubt. Yeah.
It creates an aspect to the sport that we've never had before, where it becomes more like a regular sport that anybody can watch and understand the competition because of the real-time live scoreboard and the buzzer beater factor. I mean, talk about that and talk to me about how it is to fish in that situation and how valuable that is to you guys for fans.
Yeah, I think like what happened today was just a perfect example. This is how they set it up. This is why they've stuck to their guns and did not want to have a limit. You know, I think they've struggled in the beginning on trying to figure out the variable weight minimum. You know, I was one of the first ones to say early on when we did that 1 pound deal. And it wasn't selfish when I said this. It was the first year. It was a 1 pound minimum, and I didn't feel like it was good. Like, I knew something needed to change. We didn't need guys weighing in a bunch of 1 pound, 4 ounce spotted bass and winning our events.
Agreed.
You know, and it was more of a production thing at the time. They were so afraid that they were going to cut out, you know, fish catches and everything that they had based everything on, you know, via the TV show for years. But I think over time, everyone's gotten more and more comfortable. And still, one of our best events, in my opinion, is heavy hitters on that last day when it's a 3 pound minimum. You know what I mean? I feel like so many people want to watch that because people want to see they want to see the drama that happened today, but they also want to see guys targeting bigger fish too. So I feel like they've done a very, very good job offering something that's like mainstream sports. I think, you know, obviously I watch every bit of the Classic that I could watch, and I followed that no different than what I did this, you know. But I think the big difference obviously here is when you see that moment at Major League Fishing. It's the good and the bad, right? Because we don't have the weigh-in.
Right.
But you know that moment, like he just won, like right now. But when I watch the Classic, you got to wait for the weigh-in to kind of see. And then, of course, that has its own perks to it, too. You know what I mean? But definitely, at least it's something different. You know what I mean? It's definitely something that – and I think eventually what my hope is, and not many people talk about this, but when you look at a sponsor like Bally Bet coming in and they're talking about doing basically sports betting – possibly doing sports betting and fishing in the years to come. I don't know if you knew about that.
Yeah, I've heard the story. I've heard the rumors. Yeah.
You know, if you think about where that could take the sport of fishing as a whole, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things. I like 5 fish format. I like an MLF format. I don't really honestly have a preference on. I think it just kind of depends on the event. On which I like better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a super fan of either one. There's times I don't like the MLF format. I don't like having to catch 85 pounds to beat Jacob Wheeler.
Which seems to be the recipe every time.
Yeah, like, so I feel like a 5 fish limit is kind of like you can kind of, you know, set a pace and roll through the day. And if I have 5 good bites throughout the day, you know, I have a chance to beat him. And the perfect example was last year for me. It really hit hard. Of course, it has many times, but we're at St. Lawrence River. Of course, it was fairly easy to catch him, but I'll just say that it was like I had smoked like 27 or 28 pounds of smallmouth this day, 5 fish. And, dude, I don't know how many more 4-pounders I caught. Then at the end of the day, it was like 15 minutes ago. He's like, hey, if you make one more 4-pounder, you'll make the cut. And I'm just exhausted. You know what I mean? I just had to stop and think, like, are you kidding me? Like, I got to catch just one more 4-pound. You know what I mean? Like, whereas in 5 fish, you'd have been, like, just chilling, like, sipping on a water, like, hoping you have enough, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then it just kind of goes both ways. But so I'm not, like I said, I'm not a super fan of both. I think they both have their perks at different times, for sure.
Couldn't agree more. You know, one thing that me and Chris talked about this before we went live with you, before we went live on the deal at all. But one thing I really am a fan of yours for, and because we tend to do this around here. In fact, when we're done with you tonight, we got to get into a subject that's a little bit touchy about Lake Fork, and we just don't pull any punches, man. I don't believe if you've got something that you believe in and you believe your side of the opinion, like whether you're right, wrong, or different, you should speak your mind on that. You shouldn't hide from it because it's controversial. And I love that you don't pull any punches. On that topic,
I appreciate that.
On that topic, I will go ahead because I do this with everybody. I did it with Mercer last week when I didn't like how the Bass Track lied to me and all that. But man, I'll tell you the one thing that I don't like, the one thing that I can point to right now that I don't like, and I don't know who's responsible for what, but like you said, both formats are different. They both have their merits, and this is overall small industry. It's growing, but it's a small industry in the grand scheme of things.
Small. There's no doubt.
There's no reason for us to be having Bassmaster and Major League Fishing events at the same time, in my opinion. Those are the two obvious top-tier groups. We need to get Bass Pro Tour, Major League Fishing, and Bassmaster Elite Series, and those schedules need to be where the entire fishing world can watch both. It shouldn't be about, well, we're going to schedule on top of them and try to take views away from them, because, the reality is you're both taking views away from each other. At the end of the day, let's let the whole bass fishing world watch both and let everybody grow. That's the one thing that I see Major League Fishing doing now. It bothers me bad.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I was just saying that's the one thing that I see from the organization battles that really bothers me.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I may get in trouble. Well, I probably won't get, because they kind of know how I am. Not in a bad way, but kind of like you said, I feel like I'm pretty just speak my mind. I don't mean to be vindictive or, mean or say it. But, yeah, I agree 100%. I told Boyd and several of the team at MLF when they scheduled over the Classic that at the end of the day, they were hurting us. I felt, so because for me, for years, man, there's so many people in the industry that you get to meet and mingle with that's still the biggest tournament in bass fishing. Like, don't take us away from that. You know what I mean? But you also have to understand, and I do respect the fact that they have a business to run and they're trying to go head to head and compete with bass. And make no mistake about it, bass is trying, you know what I mean? Like, they're both competing against each other, but 100%, like, I agree there should be virtually no scheduling the scheduling conflicts need to be held to a minimum, and for the benefit of the anglers, because if we have, say we're not scheduled over the Classic or whatever, it's still splitting up eyeballs, and like you said, the industry's small, and we can't be splitting up eyeballs in a small industry. I think even whenever I first started, I thought the industry was a lot bigger than what it was. From the outside looking in, it seems to be that way, but it's a lot smaller than those people think. So we don't need to be splitting eyeballs up at all, and try to do the best we can to keep the schedule separated so that everyone gets their shot in the limelight. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, round of applause, no doubt. No doubt. I think
that's why we love you, Fletcher, because you're keeping it real, man. Thank you very much for that take on that. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say.
I don't feel uncomfortable saying that. Maybe I should be, but
no, it's real though. It's real.
Of it, so
no.
Everyone has a different. Like I said, they have to run a business, and Bass knows they have to run a business, and they're both going to try to do things to try to one up the other. Competition is good. But like you said, we don't need to be scheduling events on top of each other, if at all possible. So
yeah, no doubt. Because I feel like a win for Bass is a win for BPT and vice versa. At the end of the day, when you've got more eyeballs coming to the screen to watch professional level fishing events, at the end of the day, you've got more than you had before, and it's a win for both sides. Because they're not just going to watch. I've talked to so many people that don't just watch the Bassmaster, that don't just watch BPT. They watch both.
Yeah.
And all the new true fans.
There's a large audience.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
There's a large audience that watches the cup events just because they're reaching so many. I don't know the numbers. But those cup events and heavy hitters. I know that I was at my brother house who lives up there by Wheeler. We were watching football one evening, on a Sunday afternoon, and we got done with watching one football game. We went to watch another, and heavy hitters was come on.
Yeah,
yep.
That's pretty cool. You know what I mean? So
really cool.
That's helping the guys at Bass. And I don't want this to be a Bass MLF thing. I don't hope it's that way, but yeah, that helps everyone. It helps the whole fishing industry.
Sure
whenever,
it does.
They take it that mainstream, and there's cool stories like Christy winning the Classic and things like that. It really helps both sides at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the deal. Like you said, if you grow the sport, it's going to be good for everybody involved. And they both want to have the biggest building on the bass fishing street. That's what they want. They want their building to be the biggest. But let's do that because we built the biggest building, not because we tore the other guy's building down. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
That's all I'm saying.
There's a fine line in business and doing all that and how they go about that.
It's tough.
I think that line gets crossed, and then it's looked down upon, and it's tough. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't have any say in it, right? I'm just a fisherman. I just have to show up and do, what I think's best for me to do. But, I think it's tough on both sides for sure. It's such a small game. But I think that inevitably, at the end of the day, the sport has gotten bigger in the last few years. We were talking about it today. It's gotten, I mean, I feel like I've been in it now professionally roughly for 10 years. And I've watched a transition of young anglers go from when I first started, it was like there was some kids that you saw fish.
A little bit.
But now it's like a crazy wave. I don't even have to explain it to you guys with the high school and the college and how much it's grown and because of that, it's going to continue to grow for the years to come. There's no doubt that the sport has grown exponentially, at least from my standpoint.
Yeah, these jokers now coming up are good, man. Like, they're so good.
Oh, not even just that,
Real
bro.
good.
You roll up to an academy on the wrong Saturday, and there's the high school bass fishing sign up, and then all these teams are there. You see
or a
jerseys
Bass Pro
everywhere.
or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, that's incredible. If they would have had that when I was growing up, I never would have picked up a baseball.
Right.
Ever in my life. You know?
Absolutely. No, I think a lot of us have said that have ended up in the industry. We're like, because I've said it, like when I was growing up, I had no plans on being a fishing guide or a tournament fisherman. There was no obvious path to go to pursue fishing for a living. Like you heard about the Bassmasters and you saw it on TV, but like you didn't know anybody that made money fishing tournaments,
Right.
And now there's such an obvious path. It's great for the sport. And yes, if you're a guy my age, in my upper 30s, that's trying to stay in this industry and stay alive, you better plan on grinding until the day you retire, because these kids coming up ain't playing around, dude.
No.
Like, they're real good. Like, there's going to be a lot of new fishing guys on Lake Fork that are better than a lot of the old guys because they've been trained from a younger age and all that good stuff. And it's pretty wild. So, Fletcher, let's change gears a little bit and talk specifically about
I just wanted to add to that. Yep. I'm glad I didn't have to come up and have to face a lot of these young anglers. You know what I mean? Like, it's getting tough because just the tech, obviously we're in this tech era. It's so easy to get information now and figure things out. And everyone says time on the water. I absolutely agree with that 100%. But you can put yourself in a really good position if you just do your homework.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that wasn't available 10 years ago. 20 years ago, you had to read it out of a magazine,
No doubt.
Now guys are learning at a rapid rate. And it's kind of crazy to think where it's going to be in another 10 years.
Dude, it's why we're here talking to you, because as that started developing, I saw an opportunity. Well, hey, as a fishing guide, I can market myself by giving free fishing tips on Lake Fork. I mean, that's how this whole thing started, and now here we are talking to Fletcher Shryock after the Redcrest.
I'm gonna be honest. I really appreciate you guys calling and asking me to do this. I'm a big fan of what you guys do. I tune in quite a bit. Obviously, I tune in a lot on before the Lake Fork tournament, as I think everybody did in the BPT, trying to get one up. I think we all ended up doing a lot of us ended up doing a lot of the same things, or trying a lot of the same things that you guys were talking about. But there's definitely a lot of stuff I've learned from watching
awesome.
y'all's videos. A lot of good stuff.
I've heard that from a few guys on your level now, and that is that's the coolest accolade I can receive, because obviously I respect what you guys do, and I see what y'all do when you get here and how much better y'all catch them than everybody else and all that. And so to have y'all respect what I put out there means the world, dude. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's like, I would say this, none of us know everything. You
right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so when I watch videos or whatever, a lot of times I'm watching it, I feel like I know or understand 90-something% of what's being said. I may disagree with something, anybody, whatever, but I won't do that, I'll do this. But hey, what works for this guy may not work for me, or vice versa, right? But there's always little nuggets in those videos, it seems like. Just a little piece of information that you can take away that can go so dang far. It might be a sentence, or just you bringing up something small and that just kind of changes the whole, just can really make a huge difference. Maybe not even in that specific event, but years down the line, you can remember someone saying something about, I can't even come up with an example right now.
No, I get it.
Little tidbits of information that someone says and goes, that makes sense. You know what I mean? And a light bulb goes off, whereas most people there may be a different takeaway from that video. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or maybe they consumed all of it and genuinely wanted to learn everything that you were teaching or whatever. But yeah, you guys definitely do a great job of describing, almost too far sometimes, I feel. You know, like you guys put it out there. How about the Fish Life app?
Yeah.
You guys put it out there.
Absolutely.
That's pretty dang cool. I think what you're doing is great. So.
We did, man. We placed our bets on the fact that, the information we give out, we're going to go all the way in depth, back when that wasn't really a popular thing to do. And we kind of took a gamble saying that we're going to get more on the return by doing this than we're going to lose in fish catches by exposing it. And so far it's worked out. We're still around and kicking better than ever, so it's working well so far. We'll see how long we can keep. We're going to ride her till she bucks us, Fletcher. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you guys are going to ride for a long. You're going to ride until you want to get off of that thing.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much, man. That means so much. Let's talk about tournament fishing, specifically Redcrest Championship level event. I mean, this is the bee's knees, the big championship. After a good long year last year, you fight to qualify. Now it's Redcrest. It's $300,000 on the line. How much preparation goes into it, and how much is it different than preparation for a normal Bass Pro Tour event?
You know, I wouldn't say I treat any of them any different.
I figured.
I really don't. I try really probably harder than I should. But I'll tell you what's funny. Sometimes the harder I try, the worse it is.
Right.
So I've really tried to find this like happy balance of like I'm going to do me. And that's kind of a complex thing to say when I say that. Yeah, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to. Because I really didn't anticipate on flipping or doing, like, I just need to do what works best for me and try to listen to what's going on the water. Don't pay attention to Redcrest or whether it's a BPT or just a Thursday nighter on Gunnersville.
Right.
You know, at the house. I moved there about 3 years ago or whatever. Like, I try to treat them all the same. At the end of the day, I just want to catch fish and, listen to my gut at the end of the day. And it's taken a lot of years for me to learn and keep that pressure off, regardless of what event you're in, you know? I really just genuinely want to catch them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really does come down to it. It's a pretty unique thing about fishing to some degree. It's kind of like golf in that way where it's, you're playing against other guys, but it's you versus the course in golf. Well, there's some of that in fishing where at the end of the day, you got to go catch the best fish you can catch and then see where you stack at the end of the day. I mean, that's all you can really do.
Yeah, the one thing I've always said is I don't want to beat myself at the end of the day.
Right.
And for years I spent a lot of time beating myself, like doing things that, I wasn't comfortable doing or something I felt like I needed to be doing and just bombed. Like I had some bad years and it wasn't because I couldn't do it. I was still and I'm still in the process of learning. I feel like I've gotten a lot more solid in recent years. I don't think that has anything to do with the format or just as it is just a maturity thing for me, I guess. Still got a long way to go, but yeah, it's really you against the fish and trying to put together the best day that you can for you, using your strengths and your abilities and let the chips fall where they may and stop, trying not to beat yourself at the end of the day. And it's amazing how many times, no matter which tournament you're fishing, how well that can work out most of the time. And then if you get beat out or you don't make the cut or whatever, that's okay. You did what I feel like I did what I needed to do. And it's easier for me to swallow that at the end of a tough event than it is than trying to do something and be someone that I'm not, as far as fishing goes. So.
We got some folks in the comments. Of course, we are live both on Facebook, on the Billy Lawson Lake Fork Guide or Your Lake Fork Guide Facebook page, as well as the YouTube Your Lake Fork Guide channel. So we're getting comments, and I've seen a lot of comments, and it was the last one that was made on YouTube. People talking about the last fish that Bobby Lane weighed in, and I think there may be some confusion for some of the fans out there. So, Fletcher, you know the rules better than anybody. What happened, from what I saw, was Bobby Lane weighed the fish once. It weighed 1 pound 15 ounce. He weighed the fish twice. It weighed 1 pound 15 ounce. He went to weigh it a third time, and the scale wouldn't zero, so the guy made him take it off the scale, get the scale zeroed. Then he weighed it for the third time, and it weighed 2 pounds 0 ounces. There's some people that I think he took one too many times trying to weigh it, and they're saying it shouldn't have counted. Can you clear some of that up for us?
I didn't see that, and honestly, you just described it to me. I mean, I heard it. There was a couple reweighs. That's been a thing for us. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I'm just going to say what I know of the rules. I thought we could weigh it twice. I didn't know about the third. But if you're in that position, you have to, you obviously have to do that. Here's my take on the scales, okay, with the whole deal with Major League Fishing, bass. Like, there's always been discrepancy. I won't get into that. Here's the benefit of Major League Fishing. Who ended up second? I'm sorry, I've been at the expo. Now I'm at Top Golf with Matt Lee and a bunch of us. We're getting ready to go in and whack some balls. But who ended up second in this event?
Luke Clausen weighed a late 4-pounder to leapfrog Jacob and go into second.
So really, I guess, and I would be the same way. I'd be like questioning that situation some too. But I'm just going to tell you what my mindset is. If I ended up second in this deal, because we don't have a limit, like I've always felt this way about it, because we've always wondered about the scales. We wondered about the scales at Bass. It doesn't matter. Like we always kind of want to make sure we get what's rightfully ours, right? And that, unfortunately, that comes up to that scale. Whether it doesn't matter which league or whatever format, but I feel like the benefit we have in MLF, where you can, at the end of the day, blame yourself and take responsibility, is for me, I should have caught one more.
Yeah.
Right. So if, I don't know what they had. I think they all had 8 or 9 or whatever. Like, I guess at the end of the day, I'd be like, dude, you should have caught you another 3-pounder, and it really wouldn't come down to that. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, that's what I tell myself. I don't know if that makes sense to most people, but when you can weigh as many as you obviously can put on there, that's over 2. I feel like if I get beat to the scale, I should have caught another one. That's how I deal with it. I'm not saying that's right, but at the end of the day, who knows at any tournament if the scales are absolutely dead on. You take a 5-fish limit scale, wherever that may be, maybe that guy had a little bit heavier of a bag than what you did.
Right.
Maybe
had another drop of water in there.
Yeah, maybe one guy stuffs a bluegill in the fish's throat that landed on the deck, and the one guy pulls it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
We've all seen that too, right? So where do you draw the line on that ounce? I guess for me, I'm not trying to say, MLF's better, the format's better than anything else. I'm just saying the cool thing is I have the opportunity to slap another one on there, that would obviously make you the champ or beat out a guy that you might have lost to the scale,
What you're saying is you can take the argument completely out of the equation by just catching another one. And that's a pretty good way to look at it.
As many as you can catch. So that's the way I see it. It's a crappy way, I guess, for that to go down that way. But at the end of the day, I don't think many people think about that. But then no matter what tournament you're at, I don't know if you guys agree with that, but you still, who really knows on those scales every single time, are they consistent across the board in every tournament? I don't think so.
Man, I've thought for a long time about the old, the way that they do, even like we just had Mega Bass, which is an amateur level event, but dude, it's $15,000 every hour to the big bass of the hour. I mean, that's
Right.
some real money on the line and overall as a boat, and I've thought about that often because I've seen those weigh-in processes go down, and those fish go into a tank, they empty the water out of your bag, they go into the tank, they measure them, make sure they're good, then they put them in a bag. We all know water carries weight, and one fish to the next can literally carry more water into that bag with him than the one did before. And when you're talking about hundredths of a pound, I mean, it don't take a lot of droplets of water to make a significant difference in hundredths of a pound.
No question.
So there's always going to be some discrepancy, like you said. And what I really love to hear, makes me even more of a Fletcher fan, that to me is an ultimate winner's attitude right there. No matter what happens, right, wrong, or indifferent, I can solve my problem. Right, and I've often said we could solve all the problems in the world if everybody on earth would look for every reason to blame themselves for their issues instead of trying to blame somebody else. If you're always looking for a way to blame yourself, you can fix just about anything you want to fix. There really ain't nothing going to come up that you couldn't fix if you try to blame yourself and solve it on your own. So I love to hear that from you, and that to me is probably one of the things that's made you successful is you do have that mindset.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, I'm not trying to beat the MLF format drum here, but like I said, just the fact that you can weigh a 6th one or a 7th one or an 8th one kind of, to me, in my mind, evens it out. Like, and I'm not trying to say anyone's scales are off, but I think we all have to realize there's no perfect scale. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
I don't care what scale, what stage you're on. I will, at least me personally, if I lose by an ounce, I'm always going to think about it. You know what I mean? Like, regardless. So it sucks that it went down that way today, but that's just kind of my take on it, So. Yeah,
absolutely. It would I don't even think it sucks that that's the way it went down because honestly, it was. It sucks for Luke Clausen. It does suck for him.
No doubt.
But for everybody else, that was a beautiful, amazing finish. It was unbelievably. What's crazy is we just had the Classic. And it's the closest one I can remember, and one of the most shocking weigh-ins that I can remember. And then
it was pretty dang awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and now we've had, and then with the Jason Christie story of the past classics and losing the big leads, it was just amazing. And then now we've had the Redcrest, which is like the ultimate example, as Fletcher said earlier, of the buzzer beater format. Like we said this, I think, last week on our podcast, or maybe a week before.
One of the two, yeah.
This is the best year ever for tournament bass fishing. Between the level of the 2 top tournament trails, between what we've already seen go down with the 100-pound bag at Santee Cooper and the finish at the Bassmaster Classic and 5 double-digit fish getting caught at Lake Fork on the Bass Pro Tour in one event, which has only happened like one other time maybe. And then now we've got Redcrest to throw in there too with 4 guys swinging for it at the end, 1 bite away, and 2 guys do it, and 1 guy comes out on top. Like, what we're seeing, we've still got another Lake Fork event coming up where they're going to blast them at the end of May. You know, I mean,
yeah, it's going to be awesome.
What we've seen go down this year is just unfathomable, really, from a fan's perspective.
And I think it's so great, too, that COVID seemed to release its grip a little bit. I know I fell victim to that crap last year. I thought it was, I'm going to be honest, I thought it was not a joke, but it got me down pretty bad last year. We're not going to get into that. But I missed an event last year due to it. I ended up in the hospital for a week. But not because I wanted to either, trust me. But,
I bet.
Now that that's released its grip, man, it feels so nice to, like, go to the expo. Man, we never had dinners. We never had meetings.
Yeah.
You know, it was so nice and refreshing to go out and, like, meet fans and talk to sponsors and people in the industry again. And I know it was the same way at the Classic. And I think a lot of it, all that stuff's starting to come back around to feel normal again. And not to mention we have some pretty badass fishing tournaments that are coming down to the wire at the end that are making for some really good stories too. So I agree. Everything seems to be rolling along pretty good for this little fish industry. I like it.
Yeah, it's awesome right now.
Until they go to Palestine.
Yeah, I mean, talk to me. Hey,
Growing.
Palestine's coming up, heavy hitters now. We can't tell you anything about Palestine. Chris actually lives on it, so we really can't tell you anything about Palestine other than we are very excited to watch you guys go fish Palestine at the time of year y'all are going.
I'm excited for y'all to show me how terrible I am at fishing.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, here we go. No, I don't believe that for a second. But I do know, I believe the first day of the event, there's a big media bass tournament or something.
That's correct.
Isn't there?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
I'll be there.
Going into that, we got to figure out how that's going to work out. In my mind, I just got to, survive that initial deal. Whatever that may be. It's going to hurt some guys, help some guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then after that, it's going to roll on. I think it's going to be a pretty good event. I spent like 4 or 5 days there before Redcrest was initially
canceled.
Got moved last year because it froze.
Yeah.
We all got hammered by some crazy weather last year, but that place is straight up got them.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good event. Like I said, unfortunately, the first day will be a little bit interesting, but then after that, it should be pretty dang good. So,
man, I know you can't get any information on it or anything like that, and I'm not going to put you in any jeopardy. Now, Lake Fork is the GOAT. It's the greatest lake, hands down, in my opinion. But, man, Lake Palestine has a special spot in my heart. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
That lake is a lot of fun.
I mean, anybody can go view some of the weigh-in history of the past at Lake Palestine and see what's swimming in there.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's public knowledge, so we can talk about that. There has been some giant stringers of fish caught at Lake Palestine. Fletcher, you're aware of that, man. I know you are.
I set the hook a couple times when I was over there, and yeah, they pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that it's not your average. It's just not your average lake. I'll say that.
Speaking of that, man, talk to me because I know, man. Before we knew each other, before you probably had any idea who I was, man, I used to see you and your brother, that orange and green truck. I used to see it at Lake Fork quite a bit. And I've even seen a couple old YouTube videos of y'all's that was some pretty awesome stuff, man.
Dude, the 496 films are some of my favorite YouTube videos of all time.
Talk to me about a little bit of your history at Lake Fork and just East Texas fishing in general. Because like you said, Palestine's great. Fork's obviously what it is. But you've spent some time around here. You know some of these lakes, man. They've got big ones kind of everywhere out here.
I'll tell you another one real quick, and I'll get into the Fork deal. But I'll tell you another one that's a sleeper is Tawakoni.
No doubt.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if I should have said that.
No,
that's all right.
It's public knowledge, brother.
That's
You're
all
good.
right. That's all right.
Last year, we dropped, I don't know if you guys follow Supercross at all. I went over there with Malcolm Stewart. They were racing, I believe, in Houston or Dallas. I'm not sure. One of the two. And I think it was Dallas. But they come over, and then some buddies that I have from the Rockstar Energy race team, we dropped some dang bags on them over there.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
They just had a local derby there that I think had like 8 or 10 20-pound bags weighed in.
Yeah, it took 21 to get a check.
Took 21 just to get a check. Yeah.
So yeah, it's no secret that I was impressed because there's few people that I talked, because I drove over it. I was staying at Fork before we went to shoot, I don't even remember, to be honest. But we were staying there a few days. I just wanted to fish a little bit. I'm like, I drove past to walk in. I'm like, look at them bushes in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'll go over there and dog around a little bit. Yeah, that place is pretty dang special. But yeah, so for the YouTube video that you saw and saw us running around quite a bit, I spent, I think, 3 weeks there staying in our camper, in the RV at the time. And I strictly was trying to figure out how to better fish offshore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I wanted to get really good at fishing offshore. I understood it pretty well, but I spent basically 3 weeks strictly offshore on Fork because I knew that, it was right around that time they were going to get out there good. And I learned a lot in that time. They really started showing up right about the time that I was about to leave. But it was the best day of offshore fishing I've ever had was we had to leave at like noon that last day. And from like 8 a.m. to 11, I caught the most fish I've ever caught offshore on one school in my life. Like, it was insane how big the school was. I don't know if that's normal there, but they literally just started showing up. And it was a school of bass that were probably, I don't want to say for sure, 100 yards, 75 yards on the side of a point that were just dinged up all the way down. And it was insane.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they just got there. You know what I mean?
No, and you guys are clear on Lake Fork for the year, so I can talk to you about it. But yeah, that's normal, bro. Like, that's pretty normal. It's hard to find them consistently out there at times, and it's hard. And even when you do find them consistently, at times it's hard to get them to fire and bite. But every once in a while,
that I found finally, you pull up usually and you get one or two, and then you kind of break them up, and they'll slide around and break up, and then you would drive by later, and someone else will be fishing for them. But the one group that I found, I know no one had seen them yet because I'd been over that island, that place many times. You know what I mean? And they just got there. It was the best day of offshore fishing I've ever experienced.
What I always tell people is every once in a while when Lake Fork opens up and shows you what's swimming in there, it's like nothing else you've ever experienced on earth. I mean, it truly is. And I'll talk about this day, and this was before I was guiding. This was probably at this point 8 or 9, maybe 10 years ago. But I had one day in the fall where they were kind of gathering on points, and I just stumbled across this school. My graph lights up. I toss a buoy marker out back before spot lock days, and go to making a cast, and sat there and made the same cast for 4 hours, me and a buddy. And we never went more than 5 or 10 minutes without catching one, and everything was between 3 and 8 pounds. I mean, it was just 4 hours of 3 to 8 pounders.
That's not bad. I'll tell you what's funny, though, looking back on that trip that we're talking about, that you saw us running around there so much, that 3 weeks that I spent on Fork is the main reason why I try to fish shallow now, almost exclusively.
There you go.
Because I learned in that time, now I'd fished Kentucky Lake and gone to different places whenever they were offshore and spent time doing that. But I also learned that that's something that it's not as easy as it seems. Those good days that we're talking about aren't every day.
That's right.
And when I'm fishing for a living, I need to catch them every day, or feel like
Absolutely.
I'm putting myself in the best position. And after that, I really learned a lot from that, and I felt like, okay, you know what you're doing out here, but you're a lot better up shallow than you are out here, because this stuff can be a crapshoot from day to day, depending on a pressure, because electronics aren't getting any worse. You know what I mean?
No.
And so much of that time I spent there at that time made me realize that I needed to focus my efforts more on the shallow water game. And it really kind of made me lock a flipping stick on my hand a lot more and just say, this is what you're going to do, bud.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, you're definitely deadly with that flipping stick, I will say.
Yeah, every time I see you, every time I see Fletcher, it seems like you're flipping up something, man. So you've got it figured out.
Even if it's wrong, I wouldn't say I have it figured out, but it's been very consistent for me. I haven't been able. It's hard to win, especially our events with them zeroing the weights every day.
Right.
It's freaking hard to just do one thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It's hard.
It's got to feel like to a point you do all this damage one day, and you got to feel like, okay, I'm accomplished. I did this, but then you turn around the next day and it's right back at zero, and you're like, man, I don't really have time to kind of realize that I did anything.
Yeah.
You just got to keep
going. Relentless. That format's relentless, man.
It is, and I get a lot of people, I'm not trying to sit here and say that it's harder. They're both all the formats have their challenges. At the end of the day, someone's going to win, right? But it really caters well to someone that can scramble and do something new every day. And that's what it's like. The format was made for Jacob Wheeler. Now, obviously, whatever you can do, a 1-fish derby, 10-fish derby, it doesn't matter. Like, he's going to find a way to win.
But
it's so hard to make those adjustments when they zero those weights and you go back out again. Then you got to go back out again. And a lot, some of the events, they change the leg sauce, obviously from the elimination rounds, the knockout round, the championship round. It's really hard to stay on top of it throughout and stay consistent with it and win, So that's the one thing back to the whole flipping scenario. It's like I've been doing pretty well as far as making cuts and things like that, but it's just hard to take it all away. You know what I mean? And I don't know at this point what else I really need to do. I need to start trying to do things, but at the same time, it's hard to do that when I'm consistently in knockout rounds. And,
that's what I was about to say, dude. I don't know how much I'd be changing. I mean, I'm sure you're a competitive guy. You want to win all of them. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you've been one of the most consistent guys out there. I mean, we see you later in the tournaments more than we do most guys. So whatever you're doing is working. And, a lot of that is, in this game, is just like the more opportunities you get to win one, the better chance you're going to have. I mean, obviously, the better chance you're going to have to win one. So I think you just kind of keep going down the path you're going on. You're going to get the right day, and you're going to get those W's,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think this week, and I don't usually say this, but this week on Grand, and I didn't feel real good about it going into the first day because I didn't want to be flipping on Grand Lake. I really didn't.
Right.
I know it's the winding lake. Like, you catch them winding there, especially in our format where you can weigh 8, 10, or 12 instead of just 5. Like, I really didn't feel good about it at all. And man, the river ended up blowing out on me in the knockout round, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen. We got rain on Friday, and it finally blows out. Oh, I'm sorry. We got rain on Monday, and it blows out on Friday.
Yeah, finally got down
stained, there. Water come up. It got stained. It got even better, I feel, throughout the week. And I'm like, sweet. Like, this is coming around. Like, I wasn't real vocal about it, but I was like, dude, this is going to be better than what you think it was,
Right.
And then Friday, straight red, the watercolor matched my boat. Why 5 days? I don't understand that. But anyway, I felt like this was one of those events that could have went that way. Stars didn't align. On to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
But I appreciate what you guys said. I'm just going to keep doing what I can until I find something better that works. But dang, it's hard to put that flipping stick down.
I know it is.
It's hard for us too, trust me.
mention the deal with you and your brother, your trip to Lake Fork. Got to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
I mean, your brother, Hunter Shryock, Bassmaster Elite Series angler, Fletcher Shryock, Bass Pro Tour angler. How awkward is Christmas dinner, bro?
Not at all. I feel like we both, no, for real, like we both have a really good pulse on what's going on.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like, we talk about stuff back and forth all the time, neither place is perfect. They all have their things. I feel like I have a good pulse, and I think they're doing a good job over there. And, obviously MLF's doing it different over here. But no, I think it's been a positive thing overall.
Yeah, I mean, obviously family is always going to be more important than bass fishing, but, I mean, to hear you tell it, there's been no awkwardness or strain between you and your brother being with the two rival organizations, huh?
I'd have to say, if anything, it's brought us a little closer, as weird as that may sound.
That's awesome.
There's things that happen on both sides, and I'm not going to talk about specific scenarios that we totally agree on, and vice versa, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I feel like the differences of opinion are minimal,
Good. Well, that's great.
Everyone's just got to get in where they fit in, I guess. You know what I mean? And it's never going to be a perfect place. And at the end of the day, the anglers have to make this is not a conversation even about the leagues as it is just every angler's got to find a way to use their avenues to build their brand. There's no one out there that's going to hand you a golden ticket. You know what I mean? Like, we all independently as anglers have to do a good job. I know I need to do I feel like I need to do a better job every day. It's just how I'm wired. But like, everyone's got to do, the fishing platforms are just that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if you create a good platform for yourself and you're able to promote and do well for your sponsors, you're going to be good no matter what league you're fishing in. I firmly believe, and it doesn't even have to go down to tournament bass fishing. Like, there's guys you can do. Look, I mean, what you guys are doing is freaking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, and you're not structured around the professional, tournament fishing. There's so many different ways to do it. So I think a lot of guys get into the bass MLF thing, and I don't anymore. I don't see it that way, you know?
Well, that's good. Yeah, no, and I
both did different, and and I think everything's evolving, and so far moving forward, I think it's all pretty dang positive.
Yeah, no, 100% agree, man. And that's at the end of the day, the reality is you and your brother and anybody else, even myself, like you said, not through tournament fishing, but if you've got a spot where you can provide the lifestyle that you want to for your family and you get to do it in this sport that we love, man, who cares where it is, bro? Like, you're the lucky ones. Like, we're the lucky ones, Fletch.
Exactly.
Me, you, your brother, all of us that get to do this and live the lifestyle and are comfortable at home with and providing for our family, man, we're the lucky ones on earth, really, in my opinion.
That's what it's all about right there. Doesn't matter what flag it flies under. Exactly.
That's right. That's right. Well, brother, I cannot thank you enough. Like I said, I know it was a long week, dude, and we talked to you for a long time tonight. I certainly appreciate it as much as I possibly could, man. And I hope that sincerely someday, I know we've kind of talked about it through DMs in the past, but, man, when you guys get to Lake Fork, I know you can't go on Lake Fork with me in those situations, but, man, we can slide out to another lake down the road. I got two or three hidey holes I can take you to near Lake Fork, but let's link.
I'm going to be hitting you up now.
Yeah, let's link up and let's go lead on a couple, dog.
If it's as good as Tawakoni was the last time I was over there, it's probably better than that. I'm in on that.
I got two places I can think of off the top of my head that would make your eyeballs get real big after about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to hold you to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you, brother. Have a great rest of your week. Good luck at Heavy Hitters in the rest of the year, my man.
Sweet. Thank you guys so much. Keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Me on.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you.
First time talking to Fletcher other than through messages online. Couldn't be more impressed.
About what I expected.
Couldn't be more impressed. I love that he doesn't pull the punches. Because we don't pull the punches around here, Chris.
No, we don't.
We don't pull the punches. So, I mean, I meant that. I really appreciate Fletcher doing that. That is, to me, the best accolade that I've ever received in my guiding career. Whether it was, a finish in a guides tournament versus other guides that I respect and look up to and admire, whether it was, the 13-year-old catching the 12-pounder, which was ounces from the junior state record, and that was a big deal to everybody. Any of the accolades that I've had, which, in the guide business, there's a lot of, and that's part of what we're about to talk about. Mm-hmm. You don't know. Like, you don't really, you think about it, you don't know what a guide accomplishes in his career. It's more of one-on-one interaction with people. Hey, you gave me my PB. Hey, you did this for me. And it's kind of that. But out of all the accolades that I've gotten, maybe the greatest one that I've gotten at this point is through the content that we make, and guys like Fletcher, guys like Jacob, guys like MDJ, guys like, we could keep Patrick Walters, Frank Talley, on and on down the list of these top level professional tournament guys. The fact that they respect what we do, that's probably my biggest accolade in my own opinion. That means that much to me. It really does, that those guys respect. It's that, because I'm nobody from nowhere. You knew me, Chris. Right. You knew me before any of this happened. We worked together, and I kind of trained you at our old job. And it's I had no business breaking into this the way I did, other than I love fishing and I did it a whole lot, and I had a knack or a desire to really understand it on a deeper level, which made me better over the years. Jared Carson says the GOAT of the Goat Lake. I think Jared that's another one. Like, Jared brought his dad and his brother down, and I think two of the three got their PB the first time they went with me. Like, that's really cool stuff, But that stuff you just don't ever hear about in the guide business. Nobody knows that except for me and Jared and his dad and brother, you know. Maybe it was all three at the time, PB. I can't remember. It might have been clean sweeping.
You get a PB. You get a PB. You get a PB.
PB's for everybody. But, man, as cool as this guide business is, there is no weigh-in at the end of the day, Chris. There's no way. So if you're just a guy out there that's wanting to look up and book all three. Jared Carson says it was all three. So all three, in the first day they went with me, all three caught PBs. That was awesome. I remember the trip. I couldn't remember if it was 2 out of 3 or all 3. That's really cool. And that's been several years back now. But there's no weigh-in, dog. Like, so when you're looking to book a guide, like, you're just trusting other people's recommendations or just looking at their pictures on social media.
Trusting the content they put out.
And for years and years and years before we had all this, it was just pictures in a fishing report or in a newspaper, in a magazine or whatever. And then we got Facebook, and the Facebook pictures started rolling in, but guys weren't really doing the video. And now we've got video. And what's always struck me as odd is, to this day, I'm still the only guy that I don't know of any other guides on Lake Fork specifically, where we have tons more bass fishing guides on Lake Fork than anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not even close. But I'm still the only one that's doing, at this point we don't do videos every single week like we used to. We did that for about 4 or 5 years, but I mean, cast to catch, catches. Most of the catches you see are cast to catch. Sometimes I edit out wind noise or long retrieves or whatever, but most of the catches you see are pretty much cast to catch. And it's pretty obvious. You can tell they're legit catches, and you can see the techniques we're using, and you can verify all that. I think that's one of the reasons that so many people have trusted me and I've been able to get so many bookings, is because I do put that out there where you can see that. I actually made a post on Facebook today where I took pictures from an old video. You saw me do it right before we went live. It was pictures of 2 different fish. And I started the caption off. A couple days ago, we caught 35-pound bag on our best 5. And I took pictures from different angles in that video of those fish and screenshotted them and posted that. And if you look at those fish, it looks like a 35-pound bag. The reality, folks, is that fish those were 2 fish. One was a 5-pounder and one was a 6-pounder. That's all it was.
Yep.
I mean, even if I had a bag full of those fish, it doesn't equal 35 pounds.
Right.
There is so much exaggeration and deception that goes on. And before I go any further, no means do all the guides do this. There are many guys out there that have great integrity and don't lie about weights and don't just exaggerate and fabricate weights. But there's a lot of these guys, man. There's several of these guys. They are literally just throwing stuff out there. If they don't know the answer, they make up something that sounds good to get you to buy that trip, to get you to buy whatever they're selling. And that's happened in the fishing industry forever. Some of the all-time greats have been full of it when it comes to selling lures and talking about how they're catching fish and all that. That was the accepted culture in bass fishing because there was no way to prove it. You didn't have a live camera in the boat. How are you supposed to know that Roland Martin didn't actually catch those fish on that helicopter lure back in the day? Because, folks, the helicopter lure was not great. And I've heard the rumors of the stories about the 20-pounder that was caught in Mexico that was found floating, but they said they caught it on a helicopter lure. That has always existed in this industry, and it still exists for sure. I think a lot less of it exists in professional fishing now because of live coverage.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get around it.
It's hard to lie about it when it's live coverage.
Right.
But in the guide business, it's pretty darn prevalent. And I say this because I've seen such an overly blatant example of it. And you guys, it's no surprise. I've had guides that I've worked with in the past on this channel that don't come around anymore. And I've had other guides on the lake that have probably told some of you guys how I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to Lake Fork and bad guy and all this other stuff. And I get asked all the time, it's been years now, I've been asked, hey, why isn't this guy around anymore? Why didn't this guy come on anymore? Man, we might as well just be straight up with it. We're going to be straight up, we might as well go and expose it. I mean,
Air it out.
This guy is by no means solo in this topic, in this endeavor. But Mike McFarland, y'all want to know why I don't work with Mike McFarland anymore? Mike McFarland made up more stuff and told more lies than any grown man I've ever known in my life. I started asking him to dial back the stories. When I called him out for it, said, listen, people aren't going to believe you when you tell me 1, 2, 3, 4 stories that are completely unbelievable. People are going to start thinking you're a liar, dude. You got to calm down on some of this crazy stuff you're talking about. I'm not trying to tell you you're lying. I'm just telling you got to calm down. That's the exact conversation I had with him. He got so mad at me, he started crying. And then a week later, didn't want to talk to me anymore. That's why Mike McFarland didn't come around anymore. If you go look at his page right now, you'll see a post from him yesterday or day before, whatever it was, boasting a 35-pound bag. There's 2 different boats pictured. There's a Triton and a Skeeter. And he did say in the post it was a customer in the morning and his friend Brooke in the evening. There's 2 different boats. So, Mike, how are you in 2 different boats throughout the day? There is 4 pictures of one fish, at least 2, maybe 3 pictures of another fish. The one that there's 4 of is real obvious because there's a very distinct black mark on the fish towards the tail and a red mark on the belly, and you can tell all 4 of those pictures are the same fish. All 4 of those pictures are the same fish. This person, Brooke, that's holding these fish up is smaller than my 11-year-old. And you can see how big her hands are on some of these fish that he's claiming add up to a 35-pound bag. And to the general public that's never known anything about, they just go, look, it's going to look like that's way easy 35 pounds. But when you really break it down, it's not even close. It's not even close. I'll go one step further with Mike. He just the other day got mad at me and sent me a message when I was frustrated with him because every time I say something about, when I mention something about my boat lanes card, he comes out with multiple posts about a competitive boat lanes card from Curtis Daniels, who I have no problem with. Respect Curtis Daniels. And the Super Lanes chip, by the way, I'm sure it's a great product. I haven't seen it in person. I've talked to Curtis about it. I'm sure it's a very good product. And I don't have any issue with Curtis or that chip. Mike has been promoting it as if it was his. Mike sent me a message, and in that message said that Curtis asked him to partner with him. Well, I talked to Curtis. Mike's not his partner on that deal. Mike's been advertising it for him for free. Mike's not even getting paid to advertise it. He is doing what I said he was doing. He's literally just plugging that every time I mention mine, trying to take sales away from me because he's mad at me because I called him out all those years ago. For doing, I mean, guys, he once told me that he fished a tournament in Arizona that Brent Ayler intentionally bumped his boat so that Mike wouldn't notice the different trailer he was using on his chatterbait to catch the fish versus what Mike was using. Sat in Lake Fork Marina in front of me and 2 other guys and told us that story like it was the truth. I mean, he claims to be a former professional fisherman, and he puts these plaques out there. Well, buddy, I've been in Heath Taylor's garage, and he's got 3 times that many plaques, and Heath was never a professional fisherman. You know, like, if you go look at his FLW Tour record, he definitely wasn't a tour-level pro, that's for sure. You know, like, he fished, I think it was 1 event that he didn't make the cut in on his home lake. I'm picking on poor Mike here, and I kind of feel bad for it. But he's been in my face lately, so he's getting it. But the reality is there's a lot of that out there. You guys need to be aware of this when you're booking guide trips. I'm not telling you to book me. I'm never going to tell you I'm the best fishing guide on Lake Fork. I'm not. There's better ones out there. There's better fishermen on Lake Fork. There's dudes that have been doing it a lot longer that I have tons of respect for. There's plenty of guys with good integrity out there. You need to talk to your fishing guide before you book him, if at all possible. You need to get to know him. One of the great things about the content I make is you guys get to know me because I'm on camera every week. I fish with so many people, they feel like they already know me because they see me on camera every week. When you're looking for a fishing guide, you need to talk to them and ask them a bunch of questions. First thing you need to know is, are you going to jive in the boat with that guy for 8 hours? Because being in a 20-foot space for 8 hours with somebody that you don't like runs the day regardless of the catches. It will run the day regardless of the catches. So just pay a little closer attention. Don't take everything at face value on pictures. I mean, there's a lot of guys posting multiple fish pictures of the same fish, lying about weights. I mean, this stuff's always existed. It's something that I've never participated in and I've never really talked about because how are you going to stop it? But it irritates the fire out of me to see it, especially when I got that guy coming at me behind the scenes. What you guys don't know is I got a novel-sized message from him the other day. So it's irritating. And then when you see a guy that's got the nerve to try and come at me like I'm doing something wrong and then he's pulling all this crap, you know, it just, let's throw it out there. Let's talk about what's really going on. Let's put the truth out there. I love how when he goes to sell something, he goes, I put my Mike McFarland integrity on it. You know, he got mad at me for saying that I think that him asking people to pay to watch his tip videos is a bad idea. And I think the quote that I used was, who does he think he is? And he got offended by that. That was one of the things in his novel that he sent me. Yeah. Who do you think you are? I mean, Jacob Wheeler and Edwin Evers are putting out instructional videos for free, but you expect people to pay for yours? Who do you think you are? And here we go. We've got customer comments in the house now. I'm not even going to repeat that. Well, why not? Jerry Dean Jr., who's fished with several guides around Lake Fork. I don't think I've ever gotten to fish with him, but he's around Lake Fork a lot. He says
his way around.
Every trip I've booked, this is talking about Mike, has had to be cut to half days, always an excuse. My favorite line is, I'm going to charge you the full day, but I'll take care of you on the next one. Something else that made me want to make this post is there was a Facebook question on the All Things Lake Fork group page today where a guy booked a trip, and he didn't say who the guide was, but he booked a trip, and he reached out to the guide a couple weeks before the trip to ask him, where do I need to meet you, what time, whatever. Mm-hmm. The guide said, oh, man, I've got a tournament to fish that day. I'm not going to be able to take you that day. Scheduling mistakes happen, guys. I schedule around other work obligations, filming, traveling for filming. I have a full business that I run behind the guiding business. Mm-hmm. I have to reschedule. I get double booked at times. I understand that. But this guy said, oh, I got a tournament to fish, so I can't fish with you that day. You know, as far as alternative dates, I'm booked for the next 3 months. I can understand that. That's believable at this time of year. But then the guy balked about giving him his deposit back and like gave him the hem haul and the runaround, but give him his deposit back. Man, that's like stealing. You know, our deposits are $200. Maybe this guy's is $150. It's probably $150 or $200. It's what everybody does. Mm-hmm. Like this guy just stole $150 to $200 from this guy. If he's not going to give him the deposit back, and he can't offer him a date that this guy wants to go fish on. You work with me on booking. When y'all call the company number, Chris is the guy y'all have talked to the last couple of years. We return deposits.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, now if you back out of the trip under good weather conditions a couple days before, no, we're going to keep you deposit on that one.
Right, no doubt.
Outside of that, and even sometimes on that I've returned deposits. Outside of that, we return deposits. I mean, that was another, the whole deal with Mike, and then I saw that deal on Facebook. There's bad ones it's like everything else. There's bad ones in the business. Overall, the fishing industry is full of really great people that are hardworking, God-fearing, family-first people. But in the guide business, it's easy for bad people to sneak in because there's no accountability, because there's no weigh-in. There's no way to truly measure how good or bad a fishing guide is. And I say that with me in mind. You can't truly know how good or bad of a fishing guide I am until you get in the boat and go on a trip with me. And some days, I'm going to look like I suck. Some days, I'm going to look like the best guide you've ever been with. There's plenty of days where I'm going to look like I suck. Jerry Dean says, I called you one time, your boy answered, and I was like, nope, if I can't talk to the guide, I'm not going, LOL.
I remember that phone call.
Before I knew you were how much you have going on, of course. And I get that, and I'm not mad at you. The reality is I do get so many calls for trips and so many messages for trips, I had to bring somebody on to help me. If that costs me a few trips, that's okay, because at the end, I've got so many booked, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to go with you because I've gotten to know you, and I like you a lot. Think very highly of you, Jerry. So I am sorry that it cost me the trip with you in particular. But at the end of the day, from a business perspective, if that were to cost me some bookings, that's okay, because for me, it's worth it to allow me to get to more of
the content,
my content creation, more of my other business obligations, and get to more stuff with my kids and my family.
No doubt.
So at the end of the day, it was a net gain for me, not a net loss.
Right.
Big C says, I won't take it. I'll take you, but you got to book it. Like right now, my summer's almost completely booked. I've got a few more days in July, and then my whole summer's booked until the fall.
Yeah,
so,
and I've said this to guys before, your best bet on getting a trip with Billy is probably going to be 4 to 5 months out if you can plan accordingly. That's going to be your best bet. And I've said that.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Brandon Dillard, one of the best fishermen I've ever had the pleasure of fishing with, says, and he's a guide over in TFW, said, I look like I suck today. It happens. Just makes me more mad at him. Yeah, and that's a guy, Brandon Dillard, who was leading the first day of the Open on Louisville, who has been as consistent a big fish catcher as anybody has in this region since he started guiding a couple years back now. And this is March with warm weather, good conditions. And he said, I look like I sucked. It does happen to everybody.
No doubt.
This is not in any way me calling somebody out because you went on a trip with them and y'all didn't catch them. That happens to all of us.
No doubt.
I just can't stand, and it eats at me, and it's eaten at me for years, that we have these guys that are lacking integrity. I think I think one of the reasons we have so much drama between Lake Fork guides, fishermen in general, but specifically Lake Fork guides, is you've got guys out here that have built an entire business on
deceit,
BSing people, on something that's not real, something that's not factual, something that's they're not nearly as good as they're portraying themselves to be. And so when something real comes along, they get concerned and scared, honestly, that they're going to lose part of their livelihood because they're not real.
Yeah, they go onto the defense immediately.
Yes, and they start trying to throw darts at the guy and attack him and accuse him of doing things that they actually do.
That's right.
And I've seen that a million times. Hey, those guys that block out the backgrounds on their pictures, you know why they do that? Because they look at the backgrounds of everybody's pictures and try to figure out where they are and go fish that area.
Yeah, no
like
doubt.
that's why they do that.
Yeah, I've always said
maybe not 100%, but in general, those guys that are blurring out the backgrounds, they're looking at other guys' pictures.
I've always said that, and people call me crazy, and I'm like,
and so because they do it, they think everybody does
exactly. I'm like, if your brain doesn't work that way, you would never do it.
Same thing with these guys that exaggerate and lie about weights and post multiple pictures of fish. They're thinking everybody else is going to try and do that too.
Right, no doubt.
And I'm not trying to tell you guys that I ain't never made mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've made huge mistakes. I have lied about being in a boat when a fish was caught. It was a pretty extenuating circumstance. I can tell you guys real quick. I fished with a guy for a full day and a half day, my first year of part-time guiding, 7 years ago. Full day, half day. Fished with him. During that time while we were together, I think it was the morning of the half day, we were fishing a pond dam, and I watched a 10-plus pound fish come right up to the boat following a glide bait. I had to leave at half day that day, but that guy went back out without me. When we were in the parking lot, I cut baits off my rods, tied them on his rod. And he said, "What would you do?" I said, "I'd go right back to where we saw that 10-pounder, and I'd throw this oversized Cinco right there, and I'd fish it as slow as I can, trying to catch that 10-pounder. I was at Oak Ridge Marina parking lot. Before I got to quit, man, he was blowing my phone up, caught a 1046. My first year guiding, my first month or two guiding, part-time. This is my first double-digit fish that I put somebody on. Now, I'm not in the boat, but that guy went right back to where I just had him and caught the fish that we already saw.
Yep.
I called a guide buddy of mine. I said, "I can't claim this fish because I wasn't in his boat, but I clearly put the guy on the fish." He said I can post it and, take credit for it and all that. He's thanking me about, the customer was thankful to me for it. He's like, "You put me on this fish, blah, blah, blah." Well, under that other guy's advice, just say you went back out with that guy in his boat. So I did. I felt awkward about it when I did it, but I did. Didn't think, it's not that big a deal. It's not that far of a stretch. Should have never done it. Because there was another guide in that pocket that saw that guy catch that fish and know that I wasn't in there, and he blew me up online.
Yep.
And I got caught. And I've never done anything like that ever again. Because, that just goes to show you, though, how much of a common practice the deceit is in this industry. Because I had just started. This occurs with me, and the first advice I get from a guy that I trusted was, just say you were in the boat. So it's obviously extremely common practice. David Caldwell says Brooks Rogers is a hammer on fork. Yeah, you damn right he is. He's
been for years.
Been there for a long time, and I'll tell you guys right now, Brooks don't like me none at all. Won't even speak to me. He does not like the YouTube video aspect. He thinks I'm arrogant and selfish and want all the attention. And, that's Brooks' opinion of me. It's unfortunate because I respect the heck out of him, and Brooks is damn good. And Brooks is not one of the ones that's going to fib to you about what he's catching. He's not one of the ones that's going to be deceiving you in his advertisements. Brooks is a guy that I think is great. Some of his gear and techniques is a little old school compared to some other guys. He still does it the way he's always done it, but it works for him, and he's very good. He's very good. So that's all I can say about Brooks Rogers is I wish he didn't dislike me so much because I dang sure ain't got no dislike for him other than he didn't like me.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can point to Brooks and say, well, that's messed up. Like, I don't understand why he doesn't like me because we just don't agree on the way that I run my business. That doesn't seem like a reason to not like somebody.
To each his own at the end of the day, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, can't make everybody like you.
No. He's definitely one of the OGs for sure.
So as you guys can probably imagine, I'll get
tons of hate mail.
I'll get threats. I will literally get threatened for doing this stuff.
Somebody's in TP or...
I literally might have a group of guys come up to me in boat ramp and do something to me for this one. Because I've never gone this far in depth on the shady stuff that goes on there. It is what it is, though, and I stand behind what I said earlier. If you've got an opinion on something, you shouldn't hide from it because it's controversial.
Well,
I think that truth and real beliefs need to be out there more. We need to all quit being politically correct and worrying about hurting somebody's feelings or causing issues even for ourselves. The truth needs to be out there.
Well, I'll ask you one question, Billy. If a bunch of people come and bombard you at the boat ramp and try and whip your butt, do you think it's because there's truth to what you're bringing out there?
Probably so.
Right? Because there have been many people
They're
over
worried
the
about
years.
being exposed.
Well, there's been many people over the years accuse you of doing some of the most outlandish
crazy
crap.
That's the other thing too.
And
they want to get mad about what I say about somebody online.
But it's okay to say whatever they say about
They
you.
have said way crazier stuff than this about
And
me.
you have never met somebody at the boat ramp and threatened to tune them up over it.
Never.
Because the guilty dog barks, right?
Never. No, I've had people accuse me of drug use. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember.
not marijuana.
No,
like
I know.
drug use.
Yeah.
People have accused me of all kinds of awful things over the years.
And what I'm saying is none of it's true. So you just, shrug it off. Man, that's not true. You're not
I
gonna
don't
go,
like it. I'm mad
Yeah.
at them for saying it, but at the end of the day, I just go do my job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'll just leave that at that.
That is one thing that I thought about too when Mike sent me that message, because I said something about him posting. Maybe. Might be coming soon. That's one thing I said about the message I got from Mike was like, he's calling me out on saying that he's basically was upset with me because I said that he was just posting about the other chip just to try and knock mine down. Well, okay, but Mike, you literally had a guy on your live stream call me a bitch. Like, literally tried to question my manhood and stuff. Like, you said all kinds of things about me behind my back, behind the scenes and in public on social media and stuff. Like, you guys say whatever y'all want about me, but if I ever fire back, boy.
Yeah, bad day.
Yeah.
Bad day. Speaking of Jerry Dean, I've been out at Fork many, many times, and I've never run into Jerry out there.
Really?
Yeah.
He's out there all the time.
I know he's out there all the time, but
time.
I've never run into him.
Yeah, I see him out there sometimes. Do I know anything about the guide that wouldn't let a customer keep legal bass on a guide trip? I don't know anything about that personally. I don't know. I didn't hear about that account, but that's common practice.
Yeah.
It's common practice for all of us bass fishing guides to release all of our fish. We make our living by getting people to catch those fish, and most of the fish we catch are in the slot, not legal to keep anyway. But I don't know any guide that lets people keep bass and clean them.
Yeah, I've had
Not on Lake Fork.
I've had people ask me that over the years.
Now white bass, yeah, you want I've had guys we get into a little mess of those. I'm like, they have fun catching them. We're fishing offshore. We start catching a couple white bass. And they're like, hey, let's catch some of these. I'll let them keep those. Now, I'm not going to clean them for you because I'm not a white bass guide. But if you want to catch a few of those for 30 minutes and keep them, fine.
Yeah.
What's the... Jared Dean says, you sure you fishing Fork? He ain't never seen you there either.
Yeah.
What's the biggest y'all have caught on Palestine? I haven't fished Palestine hardly any since I started guiding.
I actually have a heartbreaking story about that.
But I have caught, I've caught some up to 8 pounds for sure, maybe 9. I mean, I've never caught a double digit on Palestine, but I haven't spent the time on it like a lot of guys have.
So you remember when you and I first started fishing a bunch together? You were still part-time guiding, and we were fishing all the time. Well, it was one weekend you had a guide trip. It was on Saturday. I went out to Palestine, and I caught a 9.8. 9.8 on the Mo Berkeley scales, whatever. It was 9.8. And I thought for sure she was double digit. I went to Lake Fork the very next weekend and caught one that looked significantly bigger than that 9.8 on Palestine.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a 9.8 on Fork. So those are I caught my PB on Fork and Palestine a week apart.
Never broken the W.
Never broken the
There's
double
a lot
digit.
of guys out there that have it. You're one of those guys that just fish a lot, catch a lot of big fish, but you just haven't ever broke the double digit mark.
6 to 8.5 pounders, I can't even tell you how many I've caught, but
No,
just
I know.
never had a double digit.
I know.
It's just one of those deals.
And you remember these days, it took me a long time to get over the hump. It was like everybody that got in my boat, this is before I was guiding, but it's like everybody got in my boat would catch a 10-pounder, but I never would catch one.
But one thing I will
took me a long time.
One thing I've noticed though, once you broke that 10-pound barrier, the floodgates. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, now it's like just common.
Yeah, I'm like, this dude.
Well, not common. It's never common to catch a 10-pounder.
I know what you mean though.
But it's like
happens,
multiple per year every year since.
Yes, I'm like, this dude right here. Yeah, it's crazy. Nope, that 9.8 on Palestine. It's the biggest fish I've caught on Palestine.
Oh, they've got a high school regional, same day as MLF. That's what Fletcher was referring to earlier. I want the kids to do well, but don't want to screw the guys doing it for a living either. Oh my God, dude, that's a nightmare situation. So you're going to be boat captaining. Jared's going to be boat captaining a high school team and a high school regional. This is a regional. They had to qualify to get to this.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Jerry, there's nothing you can do besides fish with integrity. You treat those in that situation, you have to, because of those kids,
right.
You have to treat the MLF guys the same way you do the fellow competitors in the high school tournament.
I agree.
If y'all need to communicate to share water, y'all communicate to share water. Be the first guy to open the lines of communication if you're in the same area. Man, I've got these high school kids. It's their regional event they qualified for. We practiced here. We found these fish. What can we do to work together? And just say that.
I'll be willing to bet you none of them have
those guys are
inkling of an issue with it.
Those guys are really open to things like that. They understand the situation you're in just as well. So it's that's a really tough situation. You don't want to interfere with those guys trying to make $100,000, whatever they got for heavy hitters. I don't remember exactly how they pay heavy hitters. I know it's a lot of dang money. I know that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, those kids worked hard all year to qualify for that regional. You got to do what's right for them too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I would do in that situation. I would treat the MLF anglers the same way I would treat a fellow competitor in that high school field. I'm not going to hole jump you. I'm not going to crowd you. But if we're sharing water, we're sharing water.
Yeah.
And just do it with respect and try to communicate. And no matter how mad anybody gets, you just stay friendly and fish with integrity. And that's all you can do, brother.
Kill them with kindness.
That's all you can do.
For sure, don't get close enough to where you can jump in their boat and grab some of their baits. For sure, don't do that.
Yeah, that's going to be a mess. I didn't realize he said a media. That's not a media event, dude. Them high school tournaments. How many are in that regional? Because I know a normal high school field, there's like 250 teams or something crazy.
Don't get me the line.
I mean, I don't know how many are in the regional. Maybe Jerry can kind of do it. We went long.
Yeah, we did go long. Learn it, know it, live it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Big C, you got a big dose of a guide with a lot of integrity this last week. I know you did.
Oh, Cody Mays. Yeah, that dude is good as gold, man.
Yeah, he's legit. He's very legit. His fishing abilities are very good for how early in his career he is. Very good for how early in his career. I mean, unbelievably good at times for how early in his career he is. But the best part about Cody Mays has nothing to do with fishing.
No doubt.
Nothing to do with fishing.
250 plus.
It has to do with how he treats his customers, how hard he works for them, and his integrity. I think it's around 150 in the regionals. That's a little bit. That's still a lot of boats on Palestine. A lot of boats on any lake. Everybody's going to be shallow in April. We're all going to be doing the same thing. Man, that's whew. Yeah, Jerry, I'll tell you one thing just on I don't know if you can get information out, but just on a personal advice thing. Palestine's going to have good fish up on the bank all over the lake, top to bottom, come April. I would really look for something off the beaten path. You're going to be able to catch quality fish up shallow all over that lake. And all you got to do is get through regionals to qualify for state. You don't got to win the whole thing in this deal. It's like MLF. You just got to survive in advance. I would look for stuff that's off the beaten path. So, that being said, it's been a long one tonight. We've gone extra long, and I've got a lot to do before tomorrow's trip.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, thank you guys for joining us. Thank Fletcher Shryock. That was such a great conversation with him. Really enjoyed talking to him tonight. Bet you that won't be the last time you hear us talk to old Fletcher, man. That was a good one.
Go subscribe to his YouTube channel, man. I'm telling you, that 496 films that him and Hunter do, those are some of the coolest YouTube videos you've ever seen.
Yeah, go back and watch that old Fork one. It was great.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
I think it's called the Untapped series.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't remember. It's been so long since I watched them, but it was really, really good.
Yep.
Man, I'm seeing some of these comments you guys are leaving over guide reviews, and it's unfortunate, man. I'm sorry. It's just, Once you know a guy lies, it's real hard to ever trust him.
No doubt.
It's real hard to ever trust him. Once you know for a fact that a guy lies, if anybody has any doubts, I can send y'all the screenshots to prove that he's a liar. When it comes to that. So, all right, that's it for tonight, man. Y'all have a great night, man. Thank you guys so much. We are going to get to, as much as I complained about some things tonight, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow?
Go fishing like
I'm going to take somebody fishing and try to catch as big a fish as we can, and I'm going to do it the next day, the next day, the next day.
I gotta show the viewers.
Have they not seen the shirt?
They haven't seen the shirt.
Straight out of Lake Fork.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
We'll just end it on this. And if you don't hit this one, I don't know how I can set you up any better, but Chris, do the thing you do.
I'm straight out of Lake Fork.
I'm coming straight out of Lake Fork.
We gotta get out of tour.